What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Braveheart Poker. Alright, so I am about to head to Vegas for the 2022 World Series of Poker main series, and I am heading down with my buddy Chris here. He is one of my coworkers, and we're going to go down and play the event number 1 employee event, and I am going to take a shot at the $2,500 Freezeout. Now I'm just going to let you know right now, I did not do very well in the employee event, and I don't even have any hand recaps for you. So when we get into it after the intro, we are going to jump right into a hand in the $2,500 Freezeout event. So I am super excited, and I'm hoping to run really well and, maybe one day get some jewelry. So
I'd like to give a nice, warm welcome for none other than Lisa Vanderpump.
Hello, everybody. So happy to be here. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Vanderpump, and I'm so honored to kick off the 53rd Annual World Series of Poker at its new home here in Paris, Las Vegas.
Alright, so before the $2,500 event started, I ran into Phil Ivey, and he wanted a picture, so of course I was like, yeah, man, I'll give you a picture. So we got a picture together. I really appreciate him for doing that for me. Alright, as you can see behind me, we're about to start the 2,500. Let's hope all goes well. Shortly after the event started, Chino Ream was put at my table, and I eventually asked him if I can get a picture with him as well, and he was super, super cool about it. He came over, put his arm around me, we took a picture. The dude was really solid, and it was one of the best parts about playing in the tournament was getting to watch him play. He's so good. This is my buddy CJ, who also flew down from Northern California to play in the employee event and the Freezeout. And here's just a quick shot of him. And here we go into the first hand recap. All right, so we are in the 500, 1,000, 1,000 blind level. And my starting stack is somewhere in the 26K range. So it's less than starting stack, and I'm in a position where I need to start building my stack. And the under the gun raised to 2.5 bigs, which is 2,500 in tournament chips. And it folds to me, and I could have raised here or folded, but I did probably the worst option, and I just called. The button folded, and the small blind called, and the big blind called. So we're going 4 ways to a flop of Queen Jack 8 rainbow. So we flop ourselves bottom pair in a gut shot, and it checks to me, and I just check this one back. Because I feel like the players that I'm up against are all really solid, and I feel like any one of them could be trappy or could re-raise. So I just check it back, and the turn is another 8, so now we have trips plus a straight draw, and once again it checks to me, and in this spot I felt like I had a lot of the equity available. I don't think that any of them could have too much on this board, so I decided to bet small, and I only bet 2 big blinds, 2,000. And the small blind and the big blind both fold, and the under the gun player, the pre-flop aggressor, calls. The river comes a 4, and we are 95% certain that this is our pot. He checks to us, and once again we go for thin value, and I bet 2,000, not in the hopes that I get looked up for the bet, but in the hopes that he would take the opportunity to see me as weak and re-raise to something like 10,000. And so we were looking for a re-raise. And so the player starts thinking and tanking for quite a while. And throughout this tanking process, I am just thinking, okay, is it going to be 4,500? Is it going to be just a call? Is it going to be 10,000? Is it going to be 15,000? And I decided that I was going to call any bet other than a shove. This player had me covered, and I was not willing to risk my tournament life on three of a kind. We're losing to any of his value raising hands, and we're only catching bluffs. So even though I feel like I am in the lead here and I'm gonna win this pot, I still don't know if I'm gonna risk my whole tournament life. So anything other than a shove, and I'm gonna call. And so he thinks and he thinks and he thinks, and he eventually says all in. And I get pretty frustrated, and it only takes me a couple seconds before I look down at my hand, I grab the 8, I fold both cards with the 8 up. And let me recreate the faces of the 3 people that were in the pot. The small blind, which was Chino Ream. His facial expression was, let me see if I can do it right. It won't look right because he looks very much different from me, but it was essentially like this. All right, now let me give you the big blind's facial expression. And the player who I folded to went like this. And then he showed me his hand. And he showed me first the 9 of hearts. And then he showed me, and I'm praying here for the 10 of hearts. But he shows me the Jack of hearts. So we would have doubled up there had we made the call, but we had just decided before he jammed that we were going to fold it no matter what. Looking back on it, I mean, everyone else at the table knew that I was good. And maybe I think that I was just super, super nervous in this spot, being in such a big tournament for what I'm used to, that I just wasn't willing to put my tournament life on the line, even though I knew that I had the best hand. And that's something that I'd actually studied before I got to the World Series to play events, was find the players that weren't willing to risk their entire stacks, or that were playing too scared, or more scared than they should have been anyway, and target those people and play aggressively against them. And the whole table knew essentially that I was in that role, and I kind of wanted to use that to my advantage. I was hoping people would do that to me, would bet too much or bet too big against me, and then I could find some strong spots to call off anyway. But in this particular case, it was all in. It was for my tournament life, and I just decided I wasn't going to pull the trigger. So we missed some big value there, but we gained maybe a lot of maturity, some poker maturity. So hopefully in the long run it ends up working out for me, and this hand can be like a learning stepping stone in the future. So let's see what the next hand brings. Alright, so this next one is really fun. I looked down at 7-8 of spades in the under the gun +1 spot, and 7-8 suited is my favorite hand, and we are in level 10. Blinds are 1,000, 1.5. And we've got 32k in stack, and I just took it as a sign that me getting 7-8 suited, I should just play it. So it's part of my pre-flop bluffing range, I guess. And so I raised it up to 3,500, just over 2 big blinds, hoping that I could just take it down right there. We've got middle position player call, and then I think the low jack player, or maybe high jack player, raises to 7,000. It folds around to me, and for 3.5 more, we just say, okay, let's make the call. The middle position player folds, so it's heads up to a flop. The flop comes ace of spades, queen of diamonds, 9 of spades. So we flop ourselves a flush draw on a board that will favor his range pretty heavily. We check it in flow, and our opponent checks back. The turn comes the 3 of clubs. And at this point, I don't have anything but 8 high, but I really like to win this pot. So I just bet 5,000, considering I don't have a lot. I have only 25,000 in chips left. I bet a pretty big amount of my remaining stack, considering we only have 8 high. And he pretty quickly makes the call. The river comes the 10 of spades, so we get there with the flush. And I did not take very much time here. I pretty quickly jammed. I may have taken 5 or 6 seconds. I wanted it to look like I was bluffing on a potential bluff card there. So the guy sits there and he tanks and he tanks and he tanks, and he ends up calling. And we are excited right away. We turn over 8-7, and he shows pocket 6s. So we double up at a crucial time, considering the blind levels. And now we are sitting at just under 70K. And so we are, for the first time in the tournament, kind of comfortable for a little bit. We're not in danger anyway. So let's see if we can continue that. All right, so the very next shuffle, we are now under the gun, and we're stacking up our chips. And the guy next to me says, "Hey, buddy, it's your turn." And I was like, "Oh, goodness." So I look down, and I've got pocket kings. And so because I was kind of late to paying attention, I just kind of flick in 6,000, which is a huge overbet considering what everyone else was entering the pot with for raises at this time. And so I just kind of expected, probably nobody's going to call. But we get to the button, and he raises us to 15,000, which is a huge percentage of our remaining chips. So it folds to me, and now we're heads up, and I'm thinking, can I ever fold? Does he ever have anything besides pocket aces? And the answer is absolutely yes. So I kind of discount folding, and I'm like, okay, well, can I ever flat here? Not really. So that leaves raising, but if I raise, he's going to know that I've got aces or kings. So none of the options are particularly good. So do me a favor, pause the video and write down in the comments what you would have done in this exact spot this late in a big tournament. So perfect. Now that you're back, I went ahead and grabbed all my chips and I put them all out there because I'd like to take down this 20K pot right here. And he snap calls. So now we know that he's probably got pocket aces, and that's what we ask right away. You got the aces, and he says, yeah, sure do. So now we are looking for a king. The flop comes out 10-8 deuce to spades. We have the king of spades. He has the ace of spades. So spades aren't going to be helping us, and I call for a jack, but the turn is another 8. So now we are looking for a king and a king only, and the river comes in ace. So we lose, we bust out of this tournament, and it was not meant to be for us. But let me go over one more hand with you from the next tournament we play before we end the video. Alright, so this was the next day after we busted the event number 3, the $2,500 Freezeout. And Chris and I decided to go over to Caesars and play their daily morning $100 tournament, which ended up having a pretty big field. Over 85 people played, so it was pretty good for a $100 tournament. And we get pretty deep in the tournament, and we're in the small blind with about 50,000 in chips, and the blind levels are 1,000, 1,500, 1,500, and it folds to the big blind, who raises to 8,000. and he's got about 29,000 in his stack, including his raise. And I just thought the raise was super big, and I felt like he was trying to buy the pot. And I had 8-9 suited of hearts, and I put him on either a small pocket pair or two big cards like Ace Queen or Ace Jack, maybe Ace 10, that he felt comfortable enough making a big bet and trying to take down the blinds. And so I thought about it for a little bit, and I just thought it was too weird for him to raise that much. So kind of figuring where I was at, I went ahead and made kind of a looser call to go see the flop, and the big blind folds, so we're heads up. The flop comes out 7-7-9 with one heart. So we flop ourselves two pair and a backdoor straight draw and a backdoor flush draw. And we check it over, and he pretty immediately jams his last 20,000 and change into the pot. And we sit there and we think about this for a while. Is he ever doing this with aces or kings or an overpair? And it seems like he's missing out on value if he's doing this with those big pairs. So I kind of put him on Ace Queen, Ace Jack. And I am thinking a lot about the hand where I folded the trip eights from the previous tournament. And I kind of told myself, hey, you came here to play good cards, or play good poker rather, and make good decisions. And so when I thought about that for a while, I was about to fold, but then I thought about that, and I was like, no, I feel like I'm good here. And so I went ahead and made the call. And he says, good call. I flip over my hand. He flips over pocket fours. And we hold and win the pot, get ourselves a nice big chip stack, and we ride that chip stack all the way to the end and chop first place. So it was nice to just play solid poker and make good decisions and just kind of reassure myself and give myself some confidence moving forward that I can still play okay poker. So yeah, so that is it for this one. That kind of wraps up the World Series of Poker bracelet events that we played. All right, that does it for this one. Just a little recap. We fired 2 bullets in the casino employee event. Event number 1, we didn't cash. We fired a bullet in the 2500. We didn't cash, and we played in a daily that we chopped first. So no bracelet yet, but that is the goal. And while I was in Vegas, I did get enough footage for 2 more vlogs with the actual table footage. So the next couple vlogs will be a little bit more standard, and so I look forward to that, and they should come out next week. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button for me, and I'll see you out there. Thanks a lot.